Guys, Christmas already happened, and I'm still having a Halloween hangover. Look, I'm in costume. I'm being Link from The Legend of Zelda. If you don't know who that is, I don't know, shame on you. But yeah, look, it's the costume, isn't it cool? Anyway, I'm not happy right now. I'm very sad because I'm in the middle of a Halloween hangover. Last year, my hangover lasted until Christmas, but now it endures. Comment down below how to get over a really fun Halloween that you didn't want to end, but it already did, and now you're living in denial. This is getting too existential. Roll the opening. Hello there! Welcome back to my channel. You may call me Miss Introvert, and today we're going to be talking about how to develop your characters if you're stuck. Can't find a reason to keep them in your book? Well then, feel free to chuck, kill off, or suspend any of the characters that aren't working if these techniques don't work for you. You may even need to ditch the story, but first, let's see what we can do to make those characters better. Before I begin, if you're new here, subscribe to my channel for writing and introvert videos that I upload every Tuesday. And like this video if you're a writer or an introvert. Share this video with anyone who needs help writing, or if they aren't sure about their characters either. Now without further ado, let's begin. Number 1. Do some checking. You might have heard this term from one of my previous videos on what to do when you're bored with your writing, which is the last part of the writing experiment series. Check it out if you haven't yet. But there are plenty of things that I'm sure you can check. If you have an outline, go over it and see what does and doesn't fit for characters that you're having trouble with. Do they need a bigger role, or do they need to be in the scene at all? It can be hard to tell in the first stages, so don't worry about it that much on your first draft, but don't forget to keep track of your outline if you have one. Some writers don't care for outlines, but if you have one, then by all means use it. Once you finish your first draft, then you can move things around for your characters. You might need to give them different motives, or promote them to a side character, or bring them down to an extra. Your protagonist might not fit the bill right now, but you still have faith in them, so give them more development. How do you do that, you ask? Well, there are several ways to do this, and we'll go over them in the next few points. Number 2, interview your character. I'm serious, actually interview your character if you're at a loss. Interrogate them if you have to. You don't have to torture them, but once you have your answers, then write down your findings. This is a technique that I learned from the one-year adventure novel curriculum that I studied in high school, and it's taught by, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but it's Daniel Schwab. I'm not even gonna do it. I'll write it down on the screen. It sounds like a really fun last name though. You know, like those last names that are spelled like this and you just, you know, it's just so fun. Anyway, this is a form of brainstorming, and it's interaction between you and your character. Just pretend your character is a real person that you're talking to. Maybe you're interviewing their experiences or their great exploits, or you're interrogating them for a crime. Whatever it is, it's really fun and can be done through writing or just talking to a wall. Do you ship these two characters or these two characters? Explain idiot to me. How do you mean? Right, he told me as much a few hours ago. He seems to be on better terms with his kingdom now, if you ask me. What do you want? So you don't care about what happens to your dear brother? Do you mean that? I don't think you do. Well then, kill him, why don't you? You hate him, don't you? Then why do you want him dead? You were there. I just wrote it. Number 3, answer character questions. I mentioned this step in my writing experiment part 2 video. Check it out if you haven't. All you have to do is go online, or I'm sure there's a book if you prefer that on character questions that you can ask your character. But my go-to resource is always Pinterest, and there's plenty of pins that will give your character some flair and authenticity. There's also writing memes. Please check out the writing memes for the sake of levity. I beg you, they are hilarious. In addition to Pinterest, one of my favorite websites to use for character questions is linked down below. Check it out. It's also linked in my writing experiment part 2 video. It's just a bunch of questions you can ask your character based on like their appearance, what they want, what their goals are, their backstory, all these creative questions that will just get the brainstorm juices moving. Also, this video is not sponsored by Pinterest or that website. It's just, I want to give you guys some resources to help you with your characters, so you're welcome. Number 4, peer review your character. I also mentioned this part in that same video, except it's more about books in general and not characters, which is more specific. Still have a link down below. All you have to do is go out into the world and find writers who know what they're talking about when explaining good characters. But that's obviously a lot to ask for because we're in the middle of a pandemic, and it's best to not go out into the world looking for people in person. Unless you're wearing a mask, but still social distance. So what do? We turn to the internet to socialize. Oh hey, we're already here. Isn't this nice? Comment down below to socialize. So look for Facebook writing groups, or join a writer's guild. Or ask your creative writing classmates on Zoom or whatever class you're taking about their opinions on your characters. You could even email a professional. You never know who's gonna say yes if you just ask. And if you do get advice from anyone, be sure to include them in your acknowledgements. Number 5, remember what makes a good character. What goes into a good character, you ask? Well, if you want your character to be developed, you have to have them change in some way, while also having real and authentic personalities and appearances. Unless you're writing about an alien from Mars or a shapeshifter in a fantasy world, then there's some wiggle room. But you want your character to be motivated by something, and that motivation influences their desires and how the plot moves forward. These can be attributed to any of the characters in your book, but the most obvious one is reserved for your protagonist. And the opposite can be said of the antagonist. Well, not the opposite, but they are opposing the protagonist, so they want the opposite of what the other person wants. So whatever they want is what the protagonist doesn't want, and vice versa. Perfect dynamic. That's also widely used. So make sure to keep your wants and desires of both your protagonist and your antagonist unique. But it's your book, and every writer is different, and don't worry about the nitty-gritty stuff in the first draft, but do keep it in the back of your mind for referencing. If you want your character to be believable, then you have to believe them as well. As you're reading and editing through your book, keep an eye out for any missed opportunities, because you still have chances to fix them. Also, go back to the stories that gave you inspiration for your characters, and find out what made their characters believable. This is why writing involves reading and research. And those are just some of the ways you can make your characters more developed and believable. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video if you're ready to develop your characters. Or you've got nothing to worry about because your characters are already perfect, you perfect writer. Well, that's all for now, folks. Hope you enjoyed the video. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, check out my blog, and find the writing help you need on my Fiverr account. All the links will be in the description below. And stay basic. Okay, bye!